We are bringing you live coverage of the great implosion. It is now 9:56 and 20 seconds. This thing is scheduled to go off at about 10 o'clock, give or take a minute or so. Right now, our live coverage of the great implosion will continue right here on WYOU TV 22 right after this. $7,000 kamikaze cam is located. Here's a closer look. Making its debut for this morning's Lackawanna Avenue implosion is the kamikaze cam. It's also making its final appearance. You see, the kamikaze cam will live up to its name by not surviving the implosion. Kamikaze cam was installed by a crack team of WYOU engineers and production personnel Thursday afternoon. They bravely climbed the 10 stories to the top of the household furniture building. It's the largest building coming down this morning.
Well, we just want to show people what it's like to come down from the top of a building.
10 stories up.
10 stories to the ground, and you can never witness that yourself, and this camera is going to do it.
The engineers may come cheaply, but the kamikaze cam doesn't. It costs around $7,000, and we don't expect to get it back. Now, how does this technological marvel work? Well, our engineers had enough trouble setting it up, so I'll be the one who's going to explain it. The signal goes from the camera to this microwave truck. Somehow, it gets into your house. Amazing, isn't it? The kamikaze cam, a unique view of history. Unique to say the least. I was up there when they were installing kamikaze cam Thursday afternoon. It was done in a snow squall. It was kind of scary. We had to walk up the steps of that building, and there's rubble all over the place because they knocked holes in the walls to see exactly what was there and where they could place the charges. And they had cut away some of the steel staircase because that will only give the building strength, and their idea is to weaken it so it comes down in a big heap once this thing comes down at 10 o'clock. Now, it is scheduled to go off at 10 o'clock. You can tell time as well as I can. It is now 10 o'clock and 40 seconds. We haven't heard the 2-minute warning siren, which will be one long 10-minute siren 2 minutes before the implosion, and there will be other sirens as we get closer. We haven't heard it yet. That's what we're waiting for right now. You're looking live at those 5 buildings that are going to be coming down in downtown Scranton. A head-on shot. That camera is located in the parking garage. That's the camera we're going to stay on when those buildings start to come down. We also have cameras located in other parts of the city that will show you this. We've got a camera in the Oppenheim building. We've got one further on down the street. We are here in the First Eastern Bank building. You're looking at the map there. We've got 9 cameras covering this. The one you don't see there is the one that's in Chopper 22, hovering above downtown Scranton. Now, they said earlier this week there are 2 things that can hold up this implosion. One of them is heavy fog. Obviously, we don't have that this morning. We have great weather. It's kind of chilly. As I said at the top of the show, we've got a northwest wind going at 15 to 25 miles an hour. A tremendous dust cloud is going to be generated when those buildings pancake, when they start coming down. So the heavy winds we have this morning will help dissipate that cloud. Now, if you live in the Scranton area and you're not down here, you're looking at the live shot from the Oppenheim building right now. The thing that Pennsylvania Gas and Water Company says you should be aware of, because there's going to be so much dust, they're going to be opening up fire hydrants to wash down the streets, wash down some buildings. And that means it's going to stir up some sediment in the mains, so people living in the Scranton area may have some cloudy water later this morning, so you should be aware of that. Now, there are trailers parked along Lackawanna Avenue in front of the buildings, and as Doug WYOU told us earlier this week, they're not afraid of falling debris on those buildings. What they are afraid of is there's plenty of air in those 5 buildings, and when they start to squash down, that air's got to come out and go somewhere. That may cause some damage. That's why there are those trailers parked along Lackawanna Avenue. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it in that shot. If you look down at the first floor of the Lee Furniture building, if you look down at that building, you'll see some covering that will keep debris from coming out. We can go to Steamtown now. Yes, thankfully, we are not on this endeavor alone. We have people down at Steamtown National Park. Let's go live to Larry Sparano and Kevin Jordan.
All right, here we are at Steamtown National Park, where we'll have a spectacular view of the great implosion. The buildings are behind us, and a big crowd waiting for what?
Kamikaze cam!
Okay, and hopefully the mayor of Scranton has seen to it that the explosives have been planted on the right side of Lackawanna Avenue. For that, Kevin Jordan and the mayor and Mr. Bosco.
Okay, Mayor Connors, good morning.
Good morning,
Let me
Kevin.
ask you what Larry asked you first. You did plant the explosives on the right side of the of Lackawanna Avenue.
Kevin, we only put a few charges in WYOU, and we think we got them all out.
Okay,
But
very
if,
good.
if the Globe store goes down, I'm turning around walking back to Manuka. You'll never see me again.
Yeah, they'll be chasing you back to Manuka. Mayor, what's the latest on the implosion now? We hear that there's been a slight delay.
Just 10 minutes to make sure that they wanted to go through the buildings one more time, make sure everything is set up. So, listen, if Nassau can hold it up for 10 minutes, so can we.
Everything is all set. This is a tremendous day for the city.
It's a great day, and I'm certainly glad to have Al Boskov here with me, who had faith in our city. And you know what? My faith never wavered in Al Boskov. He said he was going to build this mall, and he delivered for us.
Very good. Let's talk to Al Boskov, the developer of the mall. Mr. Boskov, good morning. This is, you've got to be looking at this with great anticipation, too.
It's the kind of blast I like to go to.
A blast of the past. What about the plans now for the Lackawanna Avenue Mall? How is the plan going?
Well, you're going to see a lot of progress. You'll probably see excavation starting as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. The foundation's going in right after that, still going up in about 20 weeks, and we'll be open right on schedule October of '93.
What about this day? What does this mean to you?
It means that my feet are cold. It also means that it's sort of nice to have a council and a mayor and everyone has stuck behind this project so that we see it come to completion. More than one mayor, really, and more than one council.
Mr. Boskov, thank you. Mayor Connors,
Thanks,
thank you.
Kevin.
We'll look forward to seeing those buildings come down in a few minutes.
I hope the right ones come down.
Yeah, so do we. So do we. Mayor Jim Connors of Scranton and the developer of the Lackawanna Avenue Mall, Albert Boskov. The officials will now be going up to a podium where there'll be some speeches, but as the mayor said, there is about a 10 to 15-minute delay. We're told that the reason for the delay is the large crowd that's been assembled to watch the implosion, the great implosion this morning. Some of those people have gotten into an area where they can't be. They're going to make sure that all those people are out of the area, so there will be a 10 to 15-minute delay before the great implosion. Larry?
Okay, now that 10 to 15 minute delay has not dimmed the enthusiasm of this crowd, has it?
No way!
All right, what time did you get up this morning to see this great event?
I was up at 7 o'clock so I could be here early and get a good seat.
Is there anybody here old enough to remember when these buildings first went up? How about you, sir?
No, not really.
But you've seen these buildings in Scranton go through a lot of different changes. Tell me, a lot of people said for a number of years now that the mall would never happen. What was your thinking on that?
I'm one of them that didn't believe it would ever come to this day.
Well, here we are today, and it looks like the great implosion is about to happen. 100 years of Scranton's history will go down with those buildings. Be the beginning of a new era, a second renaissance, as Mayor Connors has put it. How about you? You looking forward to seeing this?
Yes.
Big explosion, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how about you, ma'am? What do you think of all this?
I can't wait to see it happen.
And how about you? How far did you come to see this?
From Southside, it's a dynamite day.
I guess that wraps it up. It is a dynamite day, and that dynamite is set to go off in, I guess, just about 5 minutes from now. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you, Larry. And where did you get the really cool hat, and why didn't I get one? We are high above the implosion site. We're in the 8th floor of the First Eastern Bank building. You're looking at some of the implosion personnel walking along the avenue. That's right in front of the implosion site, so obviously we've got a few minutes to kill here, pardon the phrase. But as Larry said, they wanted to make sure everybody's out of the area. They're expecting about 20,000 people for this. It was always expected that crowd control would be a problem. Obviously, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You don't get a chance to see this in your hometown too often, at least we hope not. And that's the problem with keeping people away. You're looking live at some of the crowd that is gathered. That is down the block from the state office building, just about in front of Quince Army Navy. I believe that is the intersection of Lackawanna and Penn Avenue. No, I'm not sure if you can pick that up, but we do hear a police loudspeaker warning people to get back as far as they can to get out of the restricted area. Back live to the First Eastern Bank building, you're watching WYOU TV's live coverage of the great implosion of 1992. Now, the reason we're here is the $101 million Lackawanna Avenue Mall at Steamtown As you heard Al Boskov say, they expect this thing to be open in October of 1993, which is about a year and a half from now. As we told you at the top of the show, that it was about a 6.5-year road to get to this point. It was first proposed that Al Boskov wanted to build a shopping mall, of course, with one of his stores in it, down near Memorial Stadium. They sort of asked him not to do that, to try Lackawanna Avenue instead, and that's what he did, formed a company called Scranton Mall Associates. And it's been a series of lawsuits and delays and fighting with people who didn't want to leave to people who wanted to preserve the buildings along Lackawanna Avenue. Now, as we found out, some of the buildings were just not structurally sound. We talked to some of the construction people, the demolition people rather, during the last few weeks when these buildings started coming down, and we watched some of them come down. And it was really a sight because just one big push from a payloader, and they were gone. Came down in a cloud of dust and some smelly wood, and that was the end of that. Now, you may be wondering why these buildings are being imploded rather than taken down in the conventional fashion. That's because they're just too big. It would be easier to blow them up than take them down. Let's now go back to the Steamtown National Park. Larry Sparano and Kevin Jordan. Obviously a problem with that interview. That's Kevin Jordan with Scranton Mayor David Wenzel, the guy who, during his administration, this project was first proposed, and the guy who had a lot of heartaches and headaches until we got to this moment. Plenty of lawsuits and plenty of problems during his administration, and things happened to get settled when Mayor Connors came in. Just by coincidence, I guess, they got all these lawsuits settled, and the project is moving now. You're looking live from, I believe, the camera we have in the Oppenheim building, Lee Furniture, the first building, and then working on its way down to the Household Furniture building, the one that closed about 30 years ago. Quite a spectacular building inside. When we were inside it earlier this week, we were just wondering what it used to be like. That building closed just about the time I was born, so obviously I never got a chance to take a look around in there until it was too late. And you can't help wonder what might have been if someone had kept those buildings up and if someone had kept them operating. You're looking live now at the Kamikaze Cam. That is a $7,000 Panasonic camera that is on the roof of the Household Furniture building, the one that will give you a view of the building coming down. It's never been done in this town before, and I really don't think it will be done again. It's a really expensive proposition. $7,000 for that camera, not to mention the really neat tripod it sits on. So when we powered it up this morning and we still got a picture from it, I think we were kind of all amazed. We flew over the building with Chopper 22 yesterday. That camera sitting majestically on the roof, and we're sort of pleased it's still there. That camera is on the roof. It is pointed at the back towards Steamtown. It's on the top of the Household Furniture building, which is the building you see on your right now. That should be the first of the building to come down, maybe the toughest of the buildings to come down, because that's the one with the most structural steel. As we showed you in an interview with Doug Wiyou of Control to Demolition International, they placed charges on steel beams at about a 45-degree angle, pretty much as you would chop down a tree. You wouldn't chop down a tree sawing it straight across. You do it at an angle so it slips down. That is the top of the Household Furniture building you're looking at right now. About where the U is in Household Furniture is where our Kamikaze Cam is located. It's behind that brick wall. You really can't see it from this vantage point, but you know she's there. She's powered up. She's ready to give us some spectacular pictures. Pulling back now, that's a camera from the First Eastern Bank building, a camera right to my left, and you're looking at some of the buildings that were brought down earlier this week. It was kind of ironic. What you're seeing there in the foreground, just about to the left of the News 22 logo, is what's left of the Pagula building, another building with a steel frame, and it was kind of symbolic, maybe ironic, that when they tried to rip it down Friday, she just didn't want to come down. They tried putting cables onto steel beams and yank them out. They tried and tried and tried, and finally they had to weld or get a cutting torch and cut through the beams to make it easier to rip out. And I was with several people standing on the sidewalk watching that building come down, and it was kind of sad that that building really didn't want to come down. And some of the engineers who looked at it said that building was in pretty good shape, but it was right in the middle of the mall zone, so it has to go. Mr. Pagula has relocated his insurance business to the Alperin building, which is down on Penn Avenue here in downtown Scranton. City officials were very happy to see him remain in the downtown. We have about a few minutes left in the delay for the great implosion of 1992 here in downtown Scranton. 5 buildings coming down to make way for the Lackawanna Avenue Mall at Steamtown. I was with Scranton Mayor Jim Connors a few years ago when he was speaking to a bunch of school kids, and as a reporter in this town for a long time, we all looked at these mall stories we've been doing for the last 6 years, and we got kind of disgusted with it because it didn't seem to be changing. It seemed to be the same thing over and over again. We had a joke around the newsroom. We were counting the number of times we would use the phrase, "Another hurdle has been cleared," and we're closer than ever to the Lackawanna Avenue Mall, and we still seem to be getting nowhere. I finally realized how important this project is to this town when I went to a school in Southside with Mayor Connors. He spoke to the kids about the way government worked. It was right after Mayor Connors took office, and he gave his speech about how government works and what they're attempting to do. And then from a bunch of elementary school kids, they started asking questions, and 90% of the questions had to do with, when are we going to see the mall? When are we going to see the mall? So it seemed very important to the people of this city that this mall get built. As we said at the top of the show, we are closer than ever before. You're looking live at the view head-on from the Globe store. We have got a camera in the parking deck, one of 9 cameras we've got going for you this morning. It's in the Globe parking garage. We locked it down this morning, set up the shot, and scooted out of there so no one is going to be hurt when this thing comes crashing down. About 20,000 people are in downtown Scranton this morning waiting to view this thing. Most of them are in the Steamtown National Park. That's one of the few places where city officials sort of recommended you view the implosion. They didn't want to get anyone too close. There's about a 500-feet zone around the implosion site, and they've extended that from time to time, making sure no one is in the area. 2 helicopters above. One of them is Chopper 22. There is a Scranton police officer in Chopper 22, making sure that no one is in the way of the great implosion. You're looking now at some of the crowd down at the Steamtown National Park. Kind of chilly out there, kind of breezy. I should say it's more than kind of breezy. We've got a 15 to 25 mile-an-hour wind from the northwest this morning, so it is cold. Temperatures in the low 30s this morning, and everyone remembered to set their clocks ahead at 2 a.m. We hope no one misses this thing. So you have your VCRs all set at home to tape the big event. It is now 10:15. We are about 15 minutes late. That, you're looking at something really neat. That is in the lobby of the WYOU building, 415 Lackawanna Avenue. That is a seismograph, and we will tape that when the building is coming down to show you what kind of vibration we're having in downtown Scranton. Now, one of the interesting things about this is I asked Doug Roiseau earlier this week from Controlled Demolition International. Everyone is worried that a major implosion and a big rumbling on Lackawanna Avenue will send the city tumbling into the mines. He said there's really nothing to worry about. The rumblings from the implosion will actually be less than the rumbling from the big trucks that will be brought in here to cart away the debris. We'll take his word at it, and we've got that seismograph in the lobby of our building to show you how big the rumbling will be from those buildings crashing down. Now, as being the skeptic I am, when someone tells you that the rumbling from an implosion will be less than the rumbling from a big truck, it's kind of hard to believe, because you're looking at the right of the picture there, the household furniture building, 10 stories high, plenty of steel and terracotta and brick and mortar, and you can't tell me that that stuff is going to drop from 10 stories up and not create a major rumble in downtown Scranton. We'll just have to wait and see. Andy Palumbo live, 8th floor, First Eastern Bank Building, downtown Scranton, waiting for the great implosion of 1992. 5 buildings coming down, making way for the $101 million Lackawanna Avenue Mall. At Steamtown, Al Boskoff told us this morning everything is on schedule. We should see some excavation next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday at the earliest, and that sort of thing should be helping get the mall on track. Should be open by October of 1993, about a year and a half from right now. It seems like we're waiting a year and a half for the implosion. Actually, they told us it would go off at 10, give or take a minute or so. That's now been delayed. It is coming up on 17 minutes after 10. The reason for the delay is there were some people a little too close for comfort, and they want to make sure everyone is out of there, making one last scope of the perimeter of the implosion site, making sure no one is close enough to get hurt. 9 cameras bringing you this event. We will tape as many views as we can. Instant replay, slow motion coming up after the implosion. But the big thing right now is waiting for the implosion. Now, we talked about some trailers early on in this. You can see the trailers at the bottom of the shot from the Globe parking deck, the ones that will be bringing you, ones that will be protecting some of the buildings down there from the airburst of the air coming out of those buildings when they start to implode, whenever that will be. The mall at Steamtown, $101 million. Now, it wasn't supposed to cost that much, but of course, factoring in inflation and some design changes, they wanted to put a parking lot in the back, but Steamtown National Park wanted that lane, so they had to construct underground parking garages. And that's what they had to do to up the cost of this. Some of the money is coming from the state. Some of the money is coming from the federal government. Much of the money coming from an organization called Scranton Mall Associates, which is basically Al Boskov and a man by the name of Arnold Praver, who runs an organization called Shopko that builds shopping malls all over the country. You're looking live at Steamtown National Park. That is the VIP platform where some people are making some speeches. Let's go live there now.
And speaking now is Al Boskov, one of the developers of the project.
And it's certainly been one that we've been looking forward to. Both Shopko and Boscos have been working very diligently in the program for at least 5 years. And I think you're going to see a lot of nice things happening. As soon as the buildings are down, I think by Tuesday or Wednesday, you'll see actually the beginning of the preparation for the foundations, excavation and foundations. You'll see steel coming in not too much after that. And hopefully, and not only hopefully, but right on schedule, we'll be opening in October of '93. Before that, you're going to see the Samters building, and I think that will be completed within 6 months, and the Oppenheim right behind it. So we'll have a lot going. And I want to thank everyone, the mayor, the council, governor, certainly Congressman McDade, everyone for making this project possible. And again, we certainly will live up to your expectations. Thanks a lot.
And the latest we hear, Andy, here at Steamtown from Mayor Connors is that it would be about 5 minutes from the beginning of these speeches, and we're 2 or 3 minutes into these speeches right now, so it will be about 5 more minutes, we suspect, before the great implosion does take place. Mike Washoe of the Office of Community and Economic Development speaking here as you look at another picture. One of the 9 cameras we have getting ready to take spectacular pictures. One of the most spectacular sights ever in northeastern Pennsylvania, the implosion of the 5 buildings making way for the Steamtown Mall. Governor Casey, Congressman Joseph McDade, who had expected, were anticipated to be here today, have not been able to make it. I know that Ned Dempsey, the mayor's community development aide here in northeastern Pennsylvania, will be representing the mayor. And we're about 2 to 3 minutes away, we understand, from the actual implosion. And the main event here, the thing that everybody is gathered for, as Mayor Connors here continues to speak, we're hearing from the walkie-talkie, the police transmissions, the transmissions between the folks with the demolition company, that we're about 2 to 3 minutes away from the actual implosion here in downtown Scranton. Andy, back to you.
It's only fitting that the implosion be delayed. After all, this mall project was delayed for about 6.5 years, and people who have been around here for a while remember back into the Gene Hickey administration when he proposed something called Westgate, which is something remarkably similar to this Lackawanna Avenue Mall. I guess he had his eye on the westerly side of Lackawanna Avenue, which you are looking at live right now, because those buildings were rapidly falling into disrepair. Businesses were moving out, so something had to be done. But something similar was first proposed during the Gene Hickey administration, which was before Jimmy McNulty, which was before Dave Wentz, and of course, which was before Jimmy Connors. But the actual mall as is was first proposed during the Dave Wenzel administration about 6 years ago this summer. As I said, it's only fitting that the implosion be delayed. After all, this mall project has been delayed for so long. Now, what you will be hearing, hopefully, soon, is one long 10-second siren. That's pretty much the 2-minute warning, comparing that to a football game. Then at 1 minute, we'll hear 2 short sirens, and then a final all clear at 15 seconds before the actual implosion. All the buildings you're looking at right now were built during the 1920s. The last one to be emptied out was the home furniture building, which is just about in the middle of the screen now. If you can look at it carefully, I know we can't zoom in on that camera because it's locked down because we didn't want anybody getting hurt. That camera's in the Globe parking deck. You can see the front of the building bowing ever so slightly. The closer you get to it, the more you can see the bow. And the reason is that bow wasn't there until a few days ago. What they did was weaken the building deliberately so it will come down easier when this implosion ever gets off this morning. It is now 10:22.5. You're watching WYOU TV 22 coverage of the great implosion live from downtown Scranton. As Kevin said, 9 cameras covering this event, including the $7,000 Kamikaze cam. It's on a Panasonic, it is a Panasonic camera at the top of the household furniture building, which is the building at the right of the screen right now. It is the tallest, 10 stories, steel beam construction, and it's going to come crashing down. I just wonder what we're going to tell the insurance company. Well, tell them something to get a new camera out of this. That's the view from the Kamikaze Cam. Look at that. We even made a special graphic for this thing. We spare no expense. We're losing a $7,000 camera, a tripod, and we even made a new graphic for it. Isn't this amazing? We're waiting for the implosion now, 10:23 on a Sunday morning. You're watching WYOU TV 22. Live coverage, 9 cameras strong, several people strong, of the great implosion, making way for the $101 million mall at Steamtown. Now, literally hundreds of tons of material you're looking at right now. We've got steel, we've got brick, we've got terracotta, we've got masonry, you name it, it's in those buildings, wood. But only 250 pounds of explosives are going to be used to bring it down. Now, you may ask, Andy, how is that possible? Well, we'll tell you how. What they're really going to do is just blow out the bottoms of those buildings, blow out the underpinnings. The building at the right, the household furniture building, a high-tech plastic explosive first developed by NASA, is going to take out the steel beams. The building will then collapse onto itself, maybe fall backwards from the picture you're looking at towards Steamtown. They, of course, don't want it falling out into the avenue. Now, those other buildings, different types of construction, most of them are masonry load-bearing sidewalls, and what they're going to use for those is just plain old-fashioned dynamite. Now, what they did earlier, and you can't see it from that shot, you're going to have to get a close-up shot later on, but you really did see that earlier in the show, is what they did was they blew out holes in the sides of the wall. They sort of arched them to make columns, to make it easier to blow away those columns, and the building will then collapse down into a big pile. It should take only about 7.5 seconds long. But the thing to be aware of is there's going to be a huge dust cloud formed after those buildings come down. PG&W has okayed the opening of all the fire hydrants, so that may cause some cloudy water for Pennsylvania Gas and Water Company customers in the Scranton area because it's going to stir up some sediment in the mains. You're looking live now at a picture of Lackawanna Avenue. There are still some people walking around, as you can see, to the right of your picture, just on top of the traffic signals there. They're making sure no one is in the area, that it is absolutely safe, that everyone who is supposed to be there is there, everyone who is supposed to be out is out. We're told the implosion is just a few minutes away, now 25 minutes after 10. They told us it would be a minute or two either way at 10 o'clock. They're now 25 minutes late because they were worried some people were just getting too close. One person walking out of the picture right now just toward the bottom of the screen. We hope that is a good sign that the implosion is coming near. The architectural heritage people, the preservationists, desperately wanted to save those buildings. They wanted to save the whole avenue, or hopefully incorporate some of the facades of those buildings into the new mall at Steamtown. As it turned out, it just wasn't feasible. The buildings just weren't stable. They attempted to do that early on in this project, and we do hear a siren right now. That is the 2-minute warning, finally. That means that the implosion is about 2 minutes away. You'll be hearing in just about a minute 2 short 5-second sirens. So we are close. A head-on shot from the Globe parking deck. Those 5 buildings will be history in about a minute and a half from now. It's only going to take about 7 seconds to bring those buildings down in a heap. As you heard the interview with Doug Wiseau earlier this morning, I asked him if he felt sad about destroying such history, and he likened himself to a traveling executioner, saying the death sentence on those buildings has already been passed, and they're just there to do the job, and he thinks it's more majestic to take those buildings down in one swoop than have them hacked to death as the rest of the buildings on Lackawanna Avenue. Whether you agree with him or not, it made an interesting point and something probably we should all think about. But getting back to an earlier point, the preservationists tried to save the avenue. They just couldn't do it. It would be too expensive to incorporate those buildings into the Steamtown Mall. We are now hearing another siren, which means we should be. That is the second of the 5-second sirens. We are 1 minute away, finally, from the implosion, the great implosion, here on Lackawanna Avenue. 9 cameras will be covering this. The shot you're seeing now is the one we're going to be staying with when the buildings come down. The other cameras we have out this morning are being fed into videotape machines, so we will be able to show you some slow-motion replays right after the dust settles. This is Andy Palumbo. You're watching WYOU TV 22, live coverage of the great implosion from Lackawanna Avenue in downtown Scranton. We're 8 stories above, and you're looking at Mayor Jim Connors, who will be pressing a ceremonial button. That button actually does nothing. It's only for show. That button does absolutely nothing. It's the people with Controlled Demolition International 15 seconds to go. 15 seconds to go. Hopefully we can pick up some natural sound, as we call it in the TV biz, and the countdown as those buildings come crashing down. Unbelievable. It's everything they said it would be, and then some. You were looking at what is supposed to be Lackawanna Avenue in downtown Scranton, now completely occluded by a giant dust cloud. We are here in the First Eastern Bank building on the 8th floor. Visibility is absolutely nothing outside our window right now. We have a gray, ugly, a grayish-brown dust cloud that is drifting over the city. We will take a short break and be right back with all the instant replays. You'll see it again. You are watching live coverage of the Great Implosion on WYOU TV 22. Live along Lackawanna Avenue in downtown Scranton. If you were with us just a couple of minutes ago, you witnessed the Great Implosion. 5 buildings along Lackawanna Avenue blown up, imploded to make way for the mall at Steamtown. Right now we're going to take you through some replays of the actual event. Unbelievable, as they say in the sports department here at Channel 22. You really didn't expect, you expected something spectacular, but it was even more than we had imagined. This is from the Oppenheim building. There they go. And the giant cloud of dust, which is still drifting over downtown Scranton, it's generally dissipated. But wow, what a cloud it was. We were on the 8th floor of the First Eastern Bank building. We couldn't see it from out the window. This is the view that we had from the First Eastern Bank building. This building's built in the 1920s. They're only a memory now. And here you see the giant, this is the head-on camera from the Globe parking deck. You run out of adjectives looking at something like that. And no matter how many times you never get tired of it. This is the kamikaze cam. The kamikaze cam history just like those buildings. She didn't last too long, did she? But she did work. We got about 5 seconds of video out of it, which, to be honest with you, is more than I expected. That is a live picture you're looking at now from Chopper 22. The dust cloud basically gone from the implosion site, and it's now drifting over the rest of the city. We had some high winds this morning, northwest winds 15 to 25 miles an hour, and that helped to dissipate the dust cloud rather quickly. 5 buildings built in the 1920s, reduced to a pile of rubble. Pilot Bob Gobler, photographer Dave Jones in Chopper 22 this morning. They had quite a spectacular view of just what happened. There you see the head-on view once again from the Globe parking deck. That was a camera that was unmanned, and they wouldn't let us have anyone there, and thankfully we didn't have anyone there. That is the WYOU lobby, the seismograph, and there you see the needle pin when those buildings started coming down. And as you see a sustained pin on that needle, again, the view from the First Eastern Bank building, the one we had right here, and an unforgettable moment. They sort of hang in the air for a second after you hear the charges go off, and they just majestically collapse in a heap. I have no idea what that is, so don't ask me to explain what it is. You can see the state office building in the background, and as we pull back, we see what is left of those 5 buildings along Lackawanna Avenue in downtown Scranton. The view from the 8th floor of the First Eastern Bank building. Photographer Jim Keenan at the controls. Just an unbelievable sight. It got off, let's say about a half hour late, but it was well worth the wait. 5 buildings. They said it would only take seconds. They were right. About 7.5 seconds, to be honest with you. And they all came crashing down in a heap. The reason those buildings were imploded, they were just too big, too structurally sound, at least for the household furniture building with all that steel in it, to be taken down in a conventional manner.